It's John Bowden from Rock History Music, and today we look at one of the sometimes forgotten heroes of pop and R&B music via our friend Arian Love, whose great band, the Stylistics, are back in full force with a new album called Falling in Love with My Girl. We're going to talk about the old days with Tom Bell, who helped form the Philadelphia sound, but Linda Creed, our subject today, is someone we really can't ignore. Linda died way too young, but man, did she leave an imprint on several decades of music. I remember when I was a kid, I think I was maybe 14 years old, someone showed me a picture of Linda Creed in a magazine, and I was in love. I remember thinking, this is the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life. And then you dig deeper. Well, there's more than looks here. There's incredible talent. The woman could write hits. And that started my journey into finding out more about this lady. She was amazing. We talk about the new Stylistics album with Arian Love, and he talks about Linda Creed on Rock History Music. Linda Creed didn't look like your typical hitmaker, but behind the scenes, she was one of the toughest and most talented lyricists in the game. Born and raised in Philly, she linked up with producer Tom Bell, and the two made magic, especially with the Stylistics. While Bell laid down those lush symphonic grooves, Linda was writing lyrics that cut deep. Let's just talk about the Stylistics for a second. She co-wrote Stop, Look, Listen to Your Heart in 1971. It reached number 39 on the charts. The number 9 hit, You Are Everything, from the same year. Let's just mention 3 from 1972. Bet You By Golly Wow peaked at number 3. People Make the World Go Round topped at number 25. And the top 10 hit, I'm Stone in Love with You. Then came 1973's number 5 hit, Break Up to Make Up. You'll Never Get to Heaven If You Break My Heart. That one peaked at number 23. And the number 14 hit, Rock and Roll Baby. In 1974, they had a huge hit with You Make Me Feel Brand New. That one peaked at number 2. And then Linda Creed and Tom Bell created magic for the Spinners. In 1974, I'm Coming Home peaked at number 18. And the huge hit, The Rubber Band Man, in 1976, that reached number 2. Her songs have been recorded by hundreds of acts, including Dusty Springfield, Phyllis Hyman, Johnny Gill, Teddy Pendergrass, and Roberta Flack, just to name a few. These songs weren't just hits, they were slow jam staples, and her words helped define the whole Philly soul sound. In her 20s, Linda Creed was diagnosed with breast cancer, but she kept writing. Even after the sad news, she penned The Greatest Love of All, co-written with Michael Masser, the main theme for The Greatest, biopic for Muhammad Ali. The song was originally recorded by George Benson, but in December of 1984, Whitney Houston chose the song for her 1985 self-titled album. Sadly, weeks before Houston's version reached number 1, Creed died from cancer on April 10, 1986. She was just 37 years old. Not only have her songs stood the test of time, a year after she died, family and friends established the Linda Creed Breast Cancer Organization in her honor, serving women in Pennsylvania and surrounding counties. She was inducted posthumously in the Songwriters Hall of Fame in 1992. Even though she left us way too young, her lyrics, real, emotional, and always on point, easily live on every time someone presses play. To you, Linda Creed was?
Linda was magic. We met Linda like maybe 5 or 6 years before we met her again with Tom Bell. And the group that I was in was the Monarchs. It was me, Russell, and we had a choreographer. His name was Slater, and he brought this beautiful girl to one of our rehearsals. And Slater had us like each in a corner of a room singing, and he would stand in the middle. And he would have us blending harmonies, and being in the middle, I guess he got the full around sound. And by being in the middle, he would say, okay, well, Aaron, you need to bring your note up a little louder to get a better blend. But that's where I met Linda. And when we went into the studio and started working with Tom, she was naturally singing some of the songs that she penned. And she said, Aaron, do you remember meeting me? And I said, your face is familiar, but I can't remember. She said, I was at your house. Slater brought me there. at one of your rehearsals. I said, Linda, oh my God, yes, I remember now. And she wanted to be a singer at the time. And after, it was funny, whenever Tom played, there's a couple songs we was working on that wasn't completed. It didn't have all the lyrics, but Linda sung what they had. And just 5 or 6 bars hearing it, like the hairs on the back of my head at that time, at the time would kind of like stand up and I would get chills, you know. And I said, you know, that's going to be a hit. You go somewhere else, that's going to be a hit. And then I remember asking Linda, I said, after hearing the lyrics to Bet You by Golly Wow, I asked, I said, what have you been through in life to be able to come up with lyrics that are just so simple, but it just pops it. It just goes right to the point. And she just laughed. She just thought that was just so funny when I came, but she never answered my question.
Because it was simple and profound. It was simple and profound.
Yes. Yes. It wasn't something you had to question, well, what does she mean by that? What does that mean? And that was one of the, not so much of an issue, even working with Tom. I said, Tom, you know, we're like, you tell a story and you get to the chorus. Falling in love with my girl, the way Tom had it, it was verse, 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 then the chorus. And I was like, you know, why are you waiting so damn long to get to the punchline? I'm waiting. It's like, you know, you get to a certain point and then you don't meet or reach that climax, you know. And I said, well, what do you mean? I said, okay, well, digitally, I know things can be arranged differently. So let's do 2 verses, a chorus, 2 verses, a chorus, a release, go back to the chorus. That's the way most, to me, urban contemporary songs are. Now, you coming from a rock background, sometimes there's not even a sing-along chorus in some rock stuff that I hear, you know. You can't do that with us. You can't do a song like that with us. I don't think that's going to work. And he changed it. And the change that he did was exactly like we wanted it to sound.
What song was that?
The first one, the title of the album, Falling in Love with My Girl. Yeah. I remember saying, Linda, what does Bet You by Golly mean? She said, Bet You by Golly. You never heard Bet You by Golly? I said, you mean Bet You by Golly? You mean? Yeah. I said, okay, I know. I know what that means. I never figured how that could be structured into a song the way that she did it, but she was just amazing, man, when it came to her lyrics. It was just crazy.
You make me feel brand new. I was surprised to hear that Linda wrote God Bless You, and I guess Tom didn't like the fact that she brought religion in a song or something. I didn't realize that was even a thing. And I didn't realize that Bo Donaldson and the Haywoods, Billy Don't Be a Hero of all songs, kept you guys at a #1 with that song.
Well, you tell me some new facts. I know when at a banquet, we did a banquet, and we're sitting at a table, and Linda Creed is there. And she said, you know, next time we go in the studio, we're doing the studio and you're sharing a lead with Russell. Yeah. And I said, really? Because I had did a note underneath Russell on You Are Everything. Dear saw somebody. That was me and Russell. So that was the only lead that I had at the time. Not a lead, but the only part that I had. And I said, well, Linda, hum some of the melody for me. And she hung it, and she got to the chorus, God bless you, you make me. And I said, that's a great song. But she said, God bless you there. So if Tom hated it, the song wasn't completed when she sung it to me. So he must have okayed it enough for her to sing those lyrics, you know, to me at the time. So I don't know how true that is. Sometimes things get spread out when it goes out on the media. But I
Well,
never heard that story.
I'd heard that she eventually told him that she wrote that for him. They were one of the smoothest vocal groups of the 70s, a Philadelphia soul sensation that brought heartbreak, romance, and falsetto to the forefront of R&B. Formed in 1968 out of the merging of two high school bands in Philadelphia, the Stylistics quickly evolved into one of the most iconic soul groups of the decade. The original five-man lineup featured Russell Tompkins Jr., the group's angelic falsetto lead singer, along with James Smith, Herbie Morrell, Marion Love, and James Dunn. Their breakthrough came in 1971 with a run of Tom Bell-produced classics. Their first hit, Stop, Look, Listen to Your Heart. But their real big song that year, You Are Everything, which reached number 9 on the Billboard charts. It got better in 72. Bet You By Golly Wow was a number 3 hit, and 2 more followed that year. People Make the World Go Round. And the top 10 smash, I'm Stone in Love with You. There were 3 hits in 1973, Break Up to Make Up, that was the biggest one, peaking at number 5. You'll Never Get to Heaven, If You Break My Heart, and a song that peaked at number 14, Rock and Roll Baby. Their highest charting song came in 74. It peaked at number 2, You Make Me Feel Brand New. And then came Let's Put It All Together, their last top 40 hit, which peaked at number 18 in 74. They had 10 top 40 songs from 1971 to 1974, and 17 R&B hits from 71 to 75. By the mid-1970s, internal pressures and shifting tastes started to wear on the group. By the early 80s, both James Dunn and James Smith had left the group, a pivotal moment that marked the transition from a 5-man group to a 4-man lineup after Raymond Johnson joined the band in 81. Despite the losses, remaining members pushed forward. Though their chart dominance faded in the US in the early 1980s, the Stylistics found massive success overseas, particularly in the UK and Asia. Over the decades, the lineup would change, and eventually Russell Tompkins Jr. would go solo. But the silky harmonies and those timeless ballads remained. The Stylistics weren't just a group, but they were a sound longing for radio. The soundtrack to First Loves and Heartbreaks, wrapped in lush strings and velvet vocals. 2 of my favorite songs on the albums are yours. I love Sad Tomorrows.
Thank you.
I Get a Feeling. I love those 2 songs. Tell me about those 2.
Well, this piano right behind me is where I would try to write. I'm not an accomplished piano player by no means, but I hear melodies sometime in my head, and I sit there and I try to pick it out and play. Sad Tomorrows. My brother passed away in 95, and I had to do his obituary, and I had this melody, and I took a break from it. I just sat down at the piano, and all those words came to me. Someone hearing it, they may say it's a lost love relationship, but it was actually about me and my brother's relationship.
Yeah.
And losing him, it still chokes me up, and it's been since 95. But that's where those words came from. I Get a Feeling was another melody that I had, and a young lady, I can't remember her last name, by the name of Veronica, came in and did a dub for me. And I loved her approach because she had a gospel type approach, and everything I write sits on my computer.
Yeah.
And I don't do anything with it. And I said at one time, you know what, not that I've written that many, I said, I'm gonna take all the songs that I've done since there's a platform now with the internet and just put songs by Arian out. And when Tom came with this project, I told him that I'd do some writing. He said, well, let me hear some of the songs that you've written. And I sent him 4. And these were the 2 that he picked for us to do.
You're a different, I mean, this is a different modality here. You're talking about how was that for you? Was it different?
Yes. Well, you know what? I couldn't speak at his funeral, and the song that I wrote, the lyrics I put in his obituary, right? And that was used in that aspect. But whenever I would play the song for someone to listen to, I would just tear up and choke up and couldn't finish the song. Um, Even talking about it earlier, it was hard for me to go back to where I was coming up with those words, but they just came so fluently, you know. And a buddy of mine's, um, it's funny because, again, dealing with this album, I had to go into my files to find out the copyright because I had to send for publishing rights. And I looked back, and it was copyrighted September '95,
Yeah.
and my brother died in August of '95. So all of that came flooding back again. But when I sing the song, naturally it brings back those memories. But I couldn't talk about it or sing it at the funeral. And there's no way I would have gotten through that.
But it's a healing process that you did that. I mean, whether you were conscious of it or not, that's a healing thing to do.
Yeah, and it was kind of like a double-edged sword too, because my brother was our valet for 10 years. So this it was this one uh, club that we did in Japan, and whenever we were on stage, he would stand at the dressing room door and look out at the stage. And when we went back to that club, he had passed. And then when I had to sing "You Make Me Feel Brand New,"
Yeah.
it brought back all those memories, and I couldn't get through the song. And it took me, I guess, about 6 months to be able to do that and not bring thoughts of him back, But it was hard. It's still, even uh, 20, almost 25 years later, it's still touching if I go there,
Yeah.
But I don't try to go there that often. Well, things started for us kind of like early, and my mother and father separated. I think I was 18, and I kind of like took over the responsibility, whereas I thought my father should have been there. He wasn't. So my siblings, my brother and my sister, kind of like became my responsibility. So I became like a worried parent, And I remember going on the road, calling home, worrying about them, or they're okay, they're doing this, And I look back, and well, me and my sister are still close, and we talk about that. But my sister and I, we're 10 years apart, so she didn't understand a lot of things that were happening. She said, "Well, I don't remember mom and dad ever fighting." And I said, "Well, Annette, you were too young. You weren't, but I was there, and a lot of cases, I was the the one that was used to get back at my mother. That's my father used me to get back, at my mother. So I knew all that, and I was aware of that, being the oldest one. But as I got older, they became my responsibility and kind of like my children that I was like raising. And so when my brother passed, having all those things, plus he was part of the group and everything, it was a lot of stuff. I just couldn't have his death and just be done with it. But it's just things that brought back memories constantly. When we were working together, the last time we did this venue, he was there. It was thoughts like that that was um, in my head, and that was affecting me to some degree when it came time to perform. And then we, like I said in the song, "Sad Tomorrows," um, we get to a point where we don't forget them, but we're able to know that they made a significant part of our lives, and they remain that part. I guess if we start doing this song on the stage, I guess it would bring back those same, those same memories. But I'll deal with that when and if, it happens.
Remember, if you want to help support the channel, you can. There's a PayPal link at the very top of all of our videos. Also, we just put up a lot of stuff on Patreon, but we always do on a consistent basis. There are hundreds of interview clips on Patreon that have not been released on YouTube or anywhere else. So you'll get access to everything for like $6 and change. If you want to join our Patreon, it's a great way to support us. And do you want to wear our swag? We have a great swag store where you can basically buy a Rock History Music cap, a jacket, t-shirt, a tank top. All the links are in the description, but do subscribe to our channel and click the bell notification so you don't miss anything. Like our videos, comment on them, and share them, please, on social media. I'm John Bowden. This is Rock History Music.